Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to be editing Sting, Frodo's sword from The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. I'm going to make the blade thinner, engrave the inscription on the blade and give it a fresh coat of paint. Let's go. So I started off by giving the sword a rough sand just to get rid of the previous paint job and give it a smooth surface to work with. And I liked using this technique where I put a block of sandpaper wrapped around it in the vise and kind of just work the sword on top of it, rough it up and get rid of most of the paint. And here is how the sword turned out after the process of sanding. I think it turned out pretty good and I'm glad I got rid of a lot of the paint. But again, later will be removed like it is being here, where I'm going along with my spoke shave and removing the chunkiness of the blade to make it a lot thinner like it is in the movies. Here I am again using my spoke shave to take away the thickness of the sword. This is actually a very satisfying part of the project and I'm happy with how it turned out. Now here I'm using the spoke shave once again and I'm continuing to take away the chunkiness of the blade while also trying to keep it the right size as it was originally and also trying to sharpen the edges too. As you can see, this is how the blade turned out. It's clearly a lot thinner than it was originally. It was very chunky before and I'm very happy with how thin I managed to get it, and I think I still maintain the shape that it's originally in. And here I am just going over the bottom part of the blade with a knife and kind of just carving that a little bit thinner because I couldn't quite get that in with the spoke shave. After I had the blade thinned out, it was just a process of just sanding it down, getting rid of any rough edges on the blade, and I also gave the guard and the handle just another sand just to get rid of any extra paint. So next I added wood filler to the sword. So here I am just dipping my finger in, mixing it around a little bit as it was a bit damp. This is just going to give it a nice layer to do the inscription on. It just makes it a lot easier and it smooths out the blade as well, so it will get rid of the wood grains and smooth the knots in the sword as well. So I applied quite a bit and then later I will just sand it down. So we have Sting and it just needs sanding now, and as you can see the blade is a lot thinner now. I think I did a pretty good job of that. Then we just need to engrave the detail into the blade and redo the paint job on the handle and the blade and everything, and then it should be done. So here I am just giving the sword a good sand, and this will make it a lot more smooth and it will make a nice even surface to write the inscription on. So here I am just sanding the blade again, whereas this time I'm using a different technique with sandpaper wrapped around a block of wood and I put it in the vise just to sharpen the edges of the blade and smooth the whole thing out a lot more. So now that the blade is all nice and smooth after the sanding, I can start by writing on the inscription that I'll later engrave. So I just have this template of what I need to write on the blade. I'm just going around with a pencil just to trace it on and then I'll engrave it later. So now I'm going to use my engraving pen to engrave the inscription on the sword. And this was a very tedious process because there's a lot of waves with the shape of the inscription, and I wanted to get it right first try. Just finished engraving the inscription onto the sword. So we got inscription on the guard here on both sides, and we got inscription on the blade as well. So next I'm going to repaint the handle brown, and then I'm going to use this template with the sort of leafy silver designs to wrap around the blade and masking tape, and then we can get the pattern going around the blade when we spray paint. So here I'm painting the handle brown, which surprisingly I got the right brown colour first time. So I was happy with that, and the painting went quite smooth actually, and I'll just let you watch it. So this is the finished paint job for the handle. It looks really good in my opinion. I'm happy that I didn't have any patchy areas, and it was quite tedious to get it round that silver piece there, but I think it did pretty good, and I'm very happy with how it turned out. Now this was definitely my least favourite part of this project, because this masking took hours, and it was extremely tedious to get it round the silver piece there, and it took many little pieces of masking tape to get it round, and it just took a long time, and I remember I spent all afternoon on it, and I had to wrap around the template around it as well. So here's the sword so far, and that is with all the template on it, and it's sellotaped on. So next is just carving out the design. Now that I look back, this was definitely the tedious part, because I had to go along with a knife around the silver pattern design and carve it out. It was very hard work. I spent a long time on it, and it just took ages. I'm not sure how to actually explain what I'm doing though, but I'll just show you now. So this is what I was doing. I had to carve out the leafy pattern while still leaving parts of masking tape still on, which it turned out pretty good, and I'm glad it did because I spent ages on it. As I was carving out the masking tape design on the sword, I noticed that the engraving that I did before was very, very wonky. The writing on it was not big enough, and I just did not like it at all. So here I am, I'm just taking some wood filler, I'm just going to fill it all in and then redo it once the wood filler dries, because I clearly didn't really engrave it properly and it was a bit rushed. And here is the wood filler on the sword. It's now dry, and I only put it on the blade bit because the engraving I did on the guard wasn't actually that bad and I liked it. It was just it was very wonky on the blade. So here I am engraving the pattern again because I forgot to record me writing it on, but here I am engraving it, and because there's dried up wood filler on the wood and I'm engraving on top of that, it's very soft to engrave into, which made it a lot easier, and I managed to get it very straight, and I was very happy with it. Okay, so here is the inscription now, and now we're back on track. It looks a lot better. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I'm glad I made the inscription a lot bigger as well, and it just looks better than before. And now it's time for spray paint. So the spray paint I'm using is this one on screen here, and it is a very good spray paint. I have used it for a couple of my past projects, Anduril and Glamdring, which by the way you should definitely go check out the videos I've made of them, they're on my profile. And I really like the shine effect that it has. It makes the sword really does look like metal, and it makes it look very shiny, and I really like it. And the spray paint was going really well, and it was going very smooth until I hit rock bottom and the spray paint had run out. So I eventually gave up, and the next day I went out and bought 2 new cans of spray paint and a new tool that I don't need for this project. And we were back to where we wanted to be. So I finished off spray painting Sting with the new spray paint, and it went okay. I eventually got there in the end. And here's just a quick look at it all fully spray painted. And here is the sword fully spray painted, all dried now, and now that it's the next day I can take the masking tape off the handle. This was definitely quite a satisfying process of making the sword, and I was really annoyed when I was taking the tape off because I used really old masking tape as I didn't have any new, so I was just taking it off of cardboard boxes, and obviously it still had cardboard on, so some of that got attached to the sword, which I then had to paint over. So here is the sword with the masking tape all taken off. I'm glad the design worked and the spray paint didn't leak through too much. It leaked a little bit, but not as bad as it did the first time I made this sword. I don't know if you could see there, but you could see the cardboard on the sword, which I'm now painting over. It was definitely kind of annoying, but I didn't mind. And here we have the sword handle with all the leaked spray paint and all the masking tape painted over with the brown. And now I'm just going to go in with some black paint and give it a black wash and give it quite a bit of weathering so it looks like it's been used to stab orcs, or looks like it's been used in Shelob's lair. So here you can see me dip the brush in black paint and then go over the engraving of the sword with the black paint and then wipe it off so it leaves the black paint in the engraving, which gives the inscription a nice pop. This definitely took a lot of trial and error, where I put too much paint on and then it would just dye the whole sword. I definitely had to wipe quite a lot off and redo it, but the end result was definitely worth it. So there is the one side of Sting with the engraving, and that's the other side that I still need to do. You can definitely see the engraving a lot more with that black paint. It definitely helps the engraving pop a lot more, and I added just a little bit of weathering to the handle just so it doesn't look too clean. I do definitely want it to look like it's being used on orcs. And here we have Sting finished, and I definitely used a lot of tissues and black paint to give it that weathered look, and I added a little bit more weathering to the handle and the guard, and this time I've done both sides, and I'm super happy with how it turned out. I think it looks really good, and I love how the engraving pops so much. I'm really happy with how this edit turned out, and I'm super happy with how thin the blade is now, because it was really chunky before and I didn't like it at all. I'm really glad I managed to get it to look thin, and that spray paint definitely makes the sword look like real metal. So here we have me putting the sword with the other ones back where it belongs, and it definitely looks really good to see all my swords on the wall. Here's just a few photos I took of the sword once it was done. I'm so happy with how it turned out, and I really love that engraving. I think it looks great, and I'm so happy that I redid it. It really does pop, and it's just a really nice sword overall. I love the paint job, and that handle looks good as well. I'm glad I managed to get the pattern in, and it's just a really nice sword to hold as well. It's very light, and it just looks great on my shelf. And here's just some before and after pictures, so you can really see the difference that I made. There you can see how thick it was before and how thin it is now. And I just want to thank you guys for watching. If you made it this far in the video, make sure you like and subscribe, and I hope you enjoyed. Make sure you comment below what sword from Lord of the Rings I should make next.